This journey starts with money stress and confusion. You feel anxious, react without thinking, and repeat habits you do not fully understand. Step by step, you become more aware. You learn to slow down, create structure, and stay disciplined even when life is hard. As the story continues, chaos turns into clarity, impulse turns into intention, noise turns into calm focus. You stop reacting and start choosing. In the end, you feel steady, confident, and in control for the long term. This is not a story about getting rich fast. It is a story about becoming strong, calm, and unbreakable over time. Most people are loud about money because they have none of it under control. They talk, post, compare, and perform because noise distracts them from the quiet fear underneath. The fear that time is moving faster than their progress. The fear that effort is being spent without direction. You feel it too, even if you hide it well. Money noise is everywhere. Flashing lifestyles, screens filled with wins that are not yours, conversations that celebrate spending but never discipline. The louder the world gets, the more anxious you become. Because deep down, you know noise does not build security, control does. Quiet people scare the system, the ones who do not explain themselves, the ones who do not flex progress. They move slowly, deliberately. They do not chase attention because they are building something that does not need applause. While others burn energy trying to look rich, these people conserve energy learning how to stay disciplined. You were never meant to win money loudly. Wealth built loudly demands constant defense. Wealth built quietly compounds without resistance. This audiobook is not about shortcuts, hacks, or overnight stories designed to entertain your impatience. It is about something far more dangerous to mediocrity: unbreakable money discipline. Right now, your anxiety is not about money itself. It is about control. Bills are not heavy. Uncertainty is. Debt is not suffocating. Reaction is. You are tired because every decision feels emotional. Every month feels improvised. And every year feels like a repeat of promises that did not survive pressure. This is where psychology enters, not motivation, not intelligence. Psychology, your patterns under stress, your behavior when comfort tempts you, your decisions when nobody is watching. Money obeys these moments, not your intentions. You do not need to earn more to start winning. You need to leak less. You need to react less. You need to stop negotiating with impulses that keep you small. Discipline is not restriction. Discipline is relief. It removes choice from moments where choice destroys you. This audiobook will train you to think like a builder, not a consumer, to act like an owner, not a reactor, to measure progress privately instead of performing publicly. You will learn to slow down in a world addicted to speed, and in doing so, pull ahead. Luck is loud. Intelligence is overrated. Pressure is honest. Under pressure, habits speak. Under pressure, identity shows. Wealth is built there, in silence, when psychology replaces emotion and discipline replaces noise. This is the calm before the storm of change. You are about to stop chasing money and start commanding yourself. And when you do that, money follows quietly. Discipline begins when excuses end. When you decide that comfort no longer deserves a vote in your future. Every quiet choice you make compounds, whether you respect it or not. Every ignored impulse strengthens the part of you that leads instead of reacts. This is not a personality trait. It is a practice standard. You will hear stories in this audiobook, but they are mirrors, not myths. Reflections of what happens when focus outlasts temptation, when structure outlives motivation, when patience becomes sharper than urgency. The goal is not perfection. The goal is predictability. Predictable actions create predictable outcomes. You are stepping out of comparison and into construction, out of noise and into clarity, out of wishing and into ownership. From this point forward, you measure success by what you keep, not what you show, by what you repeat, not what you announce. Stay with the silence. Let it teach you. The storm is coming, but it will work for you this time. This is your entry point into discipline as identity, not excitement, not fear, not pressure from others. Just you, choosing control repeatedly. If you can master silence, you can master money. If you can delay, you can dominate. The next chapter does not ask more effort. It demands a sharper mind, one that stops leaking energy and starts directing it. Walk forward calmly. The foundation is being laid. Everything ahead builds on this choice. Stay present. Stay disciplined. The noise fades. Control sharpens. Momentum begins now. And nothing you were taught about money will survive this shift. Chapter 1. The hidden chaos behind financial stress. Financial stress does not arrive suddenly. It grows quietly, disguised as normal life. Small decisions, casual spending, emotional shortcuts that feel harmless in the moment. You tell yourself it is just how things are. Everyone struggles. Everyone worries. Everyone feels behind. But beneath that surface is chaos you were never taught to see. Most money problems are not caused by lack of income. They are caused by lack of awareness. You earn, you spend, you react, and you repeat. No pause, no reflection, just motion. And motion without direction always leads to exhaustion. You feel busy, yet stuck. Responsible, yet anxious. Capable, yet constantly behind. Impulse is the first thief. It does not announce itself as weakness. It shows up as relief, a purchase to soothe stress, a reward after a long day, a moment of comfort because life feels heavy. You tell yourself you deserve it, and maybe you do, but impulse does not care about your future. It only wants your attention now. Avoidance is the second thief. You delay looking at numbers. You postpone decisions. You promise yourself you will fix it later, when things calm down. But later never arrives because chaos feeds on delay. Bills pile up. Worry grows, and silence becomes heavier than action ever would have been. Fear is the third thief. Fear of being honest with yourself. Fear of admitting patterns. Fear of realizing that the problem is not the world, the economy, or your past. It is behavior repeated without awareness. Fear keeps you distracted because distraction feels safer than truth. This is how financial stress survives, not through catastrophe, but through unconsciousness. You are not failing. You are drifting. And drifting feels normal because everyone around you is doing the same. Unconscious spending is not about recklessness. It is about emotion-driving decisions without permission. Money leaves your hands faster than thought can catch it. Each transaction feels small. Together, they form a leak that never stops. You work harder, yet nothing changes. The pressure increases, and so does the shame. Shame is heavy. It convinces you to hide instead of observe, to judge instead of understand, to label yourself as bad with money instead of untrained with awareness. But shame teaches nothing. Awareness does. Intentional control begins the moment you stop condemning yourself and start watching yourself. Watching patterns, watching reactions, Watching excuses appear in familiar forms. Awareness does not demand perfection. It demands honesty. When you become aware, money stops feeling mysterious. You begin to see the cause behind the consequence. Stress no longer feels random, it becomes traceable. You recognize that spending was emotional, not necessary, that avoidance was protective, not practical, that fear was guiding decisions silently. This realization can sting. Awareness often arrives with discomfort. You see habits clearly for the first time, and clarity removes excuses. But discomfort is not danger. It is the cost of growth. Financial stress loses power when it is named. When you understand that income did not fail you, behavior did, and behavior can be trained. Control is not about cutting joy. It is about choosing it deliberately. When spending aligns with values instead of moods, peace replaces anxiety. When decisions are conscious, money stops feeling like an enemy and starts acting like a tool. You are not broken, you are untrained. No one taught you to slow down, to observe patterns, to separate emotion from execution. No one taught you that discipline begins with noticing, not forcing. Awareness is the first act of reclaiming power. Not budgeting, not earning more. Awareness. Because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. And once you cannot unsee, change becomes inevitable. This chapter is not about fixing everything. It is about opening your eyes. The chaos was hidden because you were moving too fast to notice. Now you are slowing down. And in that stillness, control begins to return. Chapter 2. Why most people never get rich and don't know why. Most people believe the lie that hard work guarantees wealth. They wake up early, stay busy, exhaust themselves, and still feel stuck. Effort becomes their badge of honor. If they are tired, they assume they are doing something right. But exhaustion is not evidence of progress. It is often proof of misdirection. Hard work without discipline is chaos disguised as virtue. It looks productive, but it leaks power everywhere. You can work endlessly and still build nothing if your effort is unstructured. Motion feels like progress until years pass and nothing changes. That is the quiet tragedy most people never question. Discipline gives effort a spine. It decides where energy goes and where it does not. Without it, work becomes reactive. You respond to problems instead of designing systems. You chase income instead of protecting it. You stay busy fixing leaks you never bothered to locate. One of those leaks is lifestyle inflation. As income rises, spending rises faster. Comfort expands quietly. New habits form unnoticed. You reward yourself because you worked hard, and slowly the gap between what you earn and what you keep disappears. Wealth does not vanish. It is consumed gently by comfort. Emotional spending is another invisible drain. Stress looks for relief. Boredom looks for stimulation. Frustration looks for reward. Money becomes the fastest emotional regulator available. Each purchase feels justified. Together, they form a pattern that drains future stability to soothe present feelings. Delayed responsibility completes the cycle. You know changes are needed, but urgency fades when consequences feel distant. You tell yourself you will get serious later, when income improves, when life calms down, but later becomes a habit, and habits decide outcomes long before desire does. Desire is loud, discipline is quiet, desire dreams, discipline executes, desire wants wealth. Discipline builds it when nobody is watching. Most people want the outcome without adopting the standards required to sustain it. They chase motivation instead of structure. This is why intelligence does not save people. Smart individuals make emotional decisions too. This is why opportunity does not save people. Opportunity only magnifies existing habits. Without discipline, more money simply means larger mistakes. The truth is uncomfortable. Most people never get rich because they never decide who they must become to handle wealth. They focus on income instead of identity. They improve skills but ignore behavior. They ask how to earn more before learning how to keep more. Effort alone cannot protect you from yourself. Discipline can. Discipline tells you when to stop, when to wait, when to say no to comfort so you can say yes to freedom later. Discipline is not restrictive, it is selective. Once you see this, excuses lose credibility. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop mistaking busyness for progress. You realize outcomes separate where discipline separates. This realization is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you up, because desire is common, discipline is rare, and rarity always determines results. The next step is not more effort, it is better control, and control begins with discipline, not wanting. Chapter 3: The Psychology of Delayed Gratification. Everything you want from money lives on the other side of waiting, not wishing, not hoping. Waiting with discipline, waiting with intention, waiting while the world tells you to take it now. This is where wealth is decided. Most people lose here, not because they are lazy, but because they are impatient. They want relief now, comfort now, proof now. And every time they choose now, they quietly steal from later. The future pays the bill for the present's emotions. Delayed gratification is not about denial. It is about dominance, the ability to feel the urge and not obey it, the strength to pause when impulse demands action. This single skill separates those who stay stuck from those who compound forward. Every financial decision you make is a vote for the person you are becoming, or a vote for the impulse you are feeding. There is no neutral choice. Money records your psychology with perfect accuracy. Impulse says, take it now. Discipline says, wait. Impulse wants comfort. Discipline wants control. Impulse asks, how does this feel today? Discipline asks, who does this make me in 5 years? Impatience feels innocent. It disguises itself as enjoyment, as self-care, as small rewards that seem harmless. But impatience is expensive. It trades long-term stability for short-term relief without asking permission. The mind is wired to chase pleasure and avoid discomfort. Delayed gratification rewires that instinct, or it teaches you that discomfort is not danger, that waiting is survivable, that you are not controlled by the first feeling that shows up. Most people never train this muscle. They give in quickly. They negotiate with temptation. They justify weakness with logic that sounds reasonable in the moment. And those moments accumulate into outcomes they pretend not to understand. The disciplined mind does something different. It pauses. It observes the urge without acting. It creates space between feeling and decision. In that space, power lives. Waiting does not mean doing nothing. It means choosing timing over impulse. It means letting emotion pass so clarity can speak. Emotions are loud but temporary. Discipline is quiet but permanent. You begin to notice something when you practice this. The urge fades, not instantly, but reliably. And every time you outlast it, confidence grows. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that does not need validation. You stop feeling deprived. You start feeling in control. Control feels better than consumption ever did. Peace lasts longer than pleasure. And once you taste that peace, impulsive rewards lose their shine. Delayed gratification compounds internally before it ever shows externally. Your mind becomes steadier. Your decisions become cleaner. You trust yourself more because you follow through on restraint. This is how identity changes. You are no longer someone who reacts. You become someone who chooses. You become the kind of person who can handle more because you are no longer leaking energy through impatience. The world will not celebrate this. Nobody applauds restraint. Nobody notices the purchase you did not make, the trip you postponed, the upgrade you delayed. But your future notices, your stress levels notice, your options notice. Waiting is not weakness. Waiting is leverage. It gives you options others do not have. It gives you time. And time is the most powerful asset money can buy. You are not falling behind when you wait. You are pulling ahead quietly. Every disciplined pause is a brick laid in a foundation that does not crack under pressure. This chapter asks you to stop framing waiting as sacrifice. Sacrifice implies loss. This is not loss. This is investment. You are investing comfort today for command tomorrow. The impatient spend their lives chasing relief. The disciplined build lives that do not require escape. That is the difference. And it is decided in moments no one sees. Waiting is strength. And strength, repeated, becomes wealth. Chapter 4. Identity before income. Money does not follow effort. It follows identity. Long before numbers change, behavior does. Long before wealth appears, standards form. Most people get this backward. They wait for income to rise before they act disciplined. Builders act disciplined before income ever arrives. Your financial life is a mirror. It reflects who you believe you are. If you see yourself as a spender, money passes through your hands quickly. If you see yourself as a builder, money slows down, organizes itself, and starts working for you. Same income, different identity, different outcome. The spender identity lives for permission, permission to enjoy, permission to upgrade, permission to feel successful. Money becomes proof of worth. When it comes in, it must be shown. When it leaves, it must be justified. This identity is loud, reactive, and fragile. The builder identity is quieter. Builders do not need money to feel powerful. They need control. They delay pleasure not because they are afraid to enjoy life, but because they know enjoyment feels better when it is earned and stable. Builders are not impressed by appearances. They are committed to outcomes. Disciplined people act rich long before they are wealthy. Not rich in spending, but rich in behavior. They track before they splurge. They plan before they purchase. They decide before they react. They live below their means, not out of fear, but out of intention. This is grounding. It removes pressure. When identity leads, income becomes a tool instead of a test. You stop asking money to make you feel secure because you already are. You stop using spending to regulate emotion because you have structure to lean on. Most people want the lifestyle of wealth without adopting the mindset that sustains it. They want freedom without restraint, respect without standards, results without identity change. That equation never balances. Builders think differently. They ask better questions. Not how much can I afford, but does this align with who I am becoming? Not will this impress, but will this strengthen my position? Identity filters decisions before temptation speaks. This shift is empowering. You stop chasing validation and start building stability. You stop waiting for confidence and start earning it through behavior you respect. Confidence is not given. It is generated through consistency. When identity changes, shame dissolves. You no longer see past mistakes as proof of failure. You see them as data from an old version of yourself. You are not trapped by history. You are defined by standards you enforce now. Builders protect their future selves. They save quietly, invest patiently, learn continuously. They understand that money grows where identity is strong enough to manage it. They do not rush the process because they trust who they are becoming. This chapter is about grounding yourself in that truth. Income fluctuates. Identity compounds. Skills can be learned quickly. Character takes repetition, and repetition is what builds wealth that lasts. You are becoming someone who does not need to look rich to feel powerful. Someone who does not confuse spending with success. Someone who understands that discipline is not a phase, but a self-image. From this identity, systems emerge naturally. Systems are not forced on people who know who they are. They are built by them. And once systems exist, money stops being chaotic. It starts behaving. Identity comes first. Income follows. And once this order is restored, everything else becomes easier to control. Chapter 5. Building systems that protect you from yourself. Discipline does not survive on willpower alone. Willpower is emotional. It rises and falls with energy, mood, and stress. Systems exist because willpower fails. And if you are honest, it fails often. Not because you are weak, but because you are human. Most financial mistakes are not intentional. They happen when decisions are made in motion, when fatigue is high, when emotions are loud, when convenience is tempting. In those moments, the mind chooses what is easy, not what is right. Systems remove the need to negotiate with yourself. They act as guardrails, not cages. Guardrails do not stop movement, they prevent collapse. They allow speed without chaos. And money without guardrails always drifts toward disorder. Emotional decision-making feels flexible, but it is expensive. Every choice drains energy. Every debate creates friction. Over time, fatigue wins. Systems eliminate these micro-battles. They decide once so you do not have to decide again. Automation is discipline that does not get tired. Automatic savings, automatic investments, automatic limits. When money moves before emotion can intervene, progress becomes inevitable. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on structure. Structure is not restriction. It is freedom delayed for peace gained. When spending is pre-decided, guilt disappears. When saving is automatic, stress fades. When rules are clear, temptation loses its voice. People who resist systems often confuse them with punishment. They believe structure removes joy. In reality, it protects it. Chaos steals joy slowly. Systems preserve it quietly. Fatigue is a hidden enemy. Decision fatigue erodes discipline without warning. By the end of the day, the strongest intentions weaken. Systems step in when you are tired. They hold the line when focus fades. You do not need more self-control. You need fewer decisions. Systems simplify. They narrow choices. They turn discipline into default behavior. When systems are in place, peace emerges. Peace reduces urgency. Urgency drives mistakes. Calm allows patience. Patience compounds outcomes. This is practical power. Not exciting, not dramatic, reliable. Systems turn good intentions into repeatable action. Repeatable action becomes identity. Identity creates momentum. Peace creates consistency. Consistency builds wealth. And wealth built this way does not require constant attention. It grows quietly, protected from impulse, shielded from emotion. Systems are how you protect your future from your present moods. They are how discipline outlives motivation. And once peace replaces chaos, consistency becomes effortless. This is how control becomes normal. Chapter 6. The Quiet Power of Boring Consistency. Most people are waiting for a breakthrough, a moment, a win that changes everything. They imagine wealth arriving dramatically, suddenly, loudly. This fantasy keeps them chasing excitement instead of building stability. And while they wait, nothing compounds. Breakthrough thinking is seductive. It promises escape without patience. It tells you one big move can replace 1,000 small ones. But money does not reward drama. It rewards repetition. Excitement-driven action burns fast. It surges, then fades. One month you are motivated. The next, distracted. You start strong, then disappear. This cycle feels productive because it feels intense. But intensity without consistency produces nothing lasting. Boring repetition is different. It is quiet, predictable, almost invisible, and that is why it works. Consistency does not spike emotions. It does not inspire stories. It simply shows up and does the same thing again, whether it feels good or not. Most people underestimate this because boredom feels like stagnation. They confuse calm with lack of progress. But boredom is often a sign that systems are working. Nothing is urgent, nothing is chaotic, nothing needs saving. Consistency is not glamorous. It does not care how you feel. It operates when motivation is absent. It does not ask for excitement. It demands reliability. Wealth grows in environments where nothing dramatic happens. No panic, no celebration, just steady execution. Month after month, year after year. This is where impatience dies and confidence grows. The craving for excitement is a craving for stimulation, not success. Stimulation feels like progress because it creates emotion. But emotion fades. Results remain only where habits repeat. When you commit to boring consistency, identity shifts. You stop needing motivation. You stop seeking novelty. You respect the process instead of resisting it. And respect changes behavior. Consistency compounds trust in yourself. You do what you said you would do, again and again. That trust becomes calm. Calm becomes clarity. Clarity sharpens decisions. Boredom mastered becomes freedom. Freedom from urgency, freedom from panic, freedom from chasing what everyone else is reacting to. You move slowly, deliberately, and ahead. This is the quiet power most people never develop, and it is why most people never win long-term. They quit when it stops feeling exciting. Builders continue when it feels ordinary. Ordinary effort, repeated, creates extraordinary outcomes, not because it is impressive, but because it is rare, and rarity always wins. Consistency is not weak. It is unshakable. And when you learn to respect monotony, money starts respecting you back. Chapter 7. Discipline Under Pressure. Discipline is easy when life is calm, when bills are paid, when energy is high, when nothing demands sacrifice. Anyone can look controlled in comfort, but comfort is not the test. Pressure is. Pressure arrives uninvited. A setback, a delay, an unexpected expense, a season where effort feels heavier and results slow down. This is where most people abandon discipline without realizing it. Not because they decide to quit, but because discomfort quietly rewrites their rules. Under stress, the mind looks for relief. Spending becomes emotional. Decisions become reactive. You tell yourself you need a break, a reward, something to make the pressure go away. In those moments, discipline feels optional, temporary, flexible, and that is when control slips. Reactive spending is not about money. It is about escape. Escape from tension, escape from fear, escape from the feeling that you are not moving fast enough. The purchase feels like a solution, but it solves nothing. It delays reality while making tomorrow heavier. Controlled response is different. Control does not deny stress. It absorbs it. It recognizes discomfort without obeying it. Control says this moment is difficult, but difficulty does not get to decide my standards. Stress is the proving ground of financial identity. It strips away intention and exposes habit. When pressure hits, you do not rise to your goals. You fall to your training. If discipline collapses under stress, it was never discipline. It was convenience. Most people believe pressure changes them. It does not. Pressure reveals what was already there. It reveals whether discipline was real or conditional, whether structure was solid or decorative, whether identity was chosen or imagined. This is where resolve is tested, not in motivation, but in restraint, not in excitement, but in refusal. Refusal to let emotion take the wheel, refusal to trade long-term control for short-term comfort. Builders respond differently under pressure. They slow down instead of spiraling. They reduce noise instead of increasing reaction. They protect systems instead of breaking them. Pressure sharpens their focus instead of scattering it. This is not because they feel stronger. It is because they decided earlier who they would be when things got hard. Discipline was not reserved for good days. It was designed for bad ones. When you hold the line under pressure, something changes internally. Confidence deepens, not loud confidence, quiet certainty. You learn that discomfort does not control you. You control your response to it. Every pressured moment you survive without breaking discipline reinforces identity. You become someone who can be trusted under strain, someone who does not collapse when tested, someone who stays steady when others react. This chapter is not about avoiding stress. Stress is unavoidable. This chapter is about meeting it with standards instead of emotion, about understanding that pressure is not an interruption of the process. It is the process. Pressure does not change you. It reveals you. And once you see who you are under pressure, you gain the power to become who you choose to be next. Chapter 8. Social Noise versus Silent Progress. The loudest force working against your discipline is comparison. It enters quietly, through screens, conversations, and images that were never meant to guide your life. You see what others show, not what they sacrifice. And without realizing it, your standards begin to shift. You measure yourself against performances instead of principles. Social noise convinces you that progress must be visible to be real, that success must be shared to be valid. It pressures you to spend, upgrade, and display before you are ready, not because you want to, but because silence feels like falling behind. This is how insecurity disguises itself as ambition. Lifestyle envy is a discipline killer. It creates urgency where none exists. You rush decisions, you skip steps. You justify spending because others appear ahead. But appearances are edited. Outcomes are not. What you see online is rarely funded by stability. It is often funded by debt, stress, and fragile momentum. External validation is addictive. Likes, comments, approval. They create a quick emotional hit that feels like progress. But validation does not compound. It fades quickly, leaving you needing more. The more you rely on it, the more disconnected you become from your own metrics. Internal metrics are quieter. They do not impress anyone else. They track what you keep, not what you show. How consistently you execute, how calmly you respond, how often you follow through when nobody is watching. These metrics build real confidence, not borrowed confidence. Silent progress feels uncomfortable at first. There is no applause, no comparison win, no visible proof that you are doing well. But that discomfort is a sign you are no longer performing. You are building. Builders move differently. They do not explain themselves. They do not rush milestones. They let results arrive before announcing direction. Detachment is strength. When you stop reacting to what others are doing, your decisions become cleaner. You stop chasing timelines that are not yours. You stop spending to keep up. You stop confusing noise with opportunity. Silence protects focus. It shields your systems from interference. It keeps emotion out of execution. While others broadcast, you reinforce. While others compare, you compound. This is not withdrawal, it is strategy. The strongest position is one that does not need defending. Silent progress does not invite opinion. It does not provoke competition. It allows you to move without resistance, quietly, relentlessly. Silence is not absence. It is advantage. And once you understand that, discipline becomes easier to protect. Chapter 9. The Long Game Mindset. Most people live inside short time frames, weeks, paychecks, months. They measure success by speed and panic when results take longer than expected. Urgency becomes their operating system. Everything must happen now or it feels like failure. This mindset keeps them busy, stressed, and perpetually dissatisfied. The long game requires a different psychology. It asks you to zoom out when others narrow in, to think in decades, not days, to value trajectory over momentary results. This shift changes everything. When time becomes an ally instead of an enemy, pressure loses its grip. Short-term urgency feels productive. It creates movement, deadlines, action. But urgency also creates mistakes. It encourages rushing. It rewards reaction. It convinces you that speed matters more than direction. Over time, urgency exhausts discipline and replaces strategy with impulse. Long-term certainty is calmer. It does not rush. It does not panic. It trusts process because it understands math, behavior, and compounding. A certainty is not optimism. It is patience backed by structure. It knows that consistent effort, applied over time, produces outcomes urgency never could. People who win the long game do not look impressive early. They look slow, conservative, almost boring. But they are positioning themselves. While others sprint and burn out, they pace themselves for distance. They protect energy. They protect capital. They protect focus. Patience is a competitive edge because so few people possess it. Most quit early. Most change direction too often. Most abandon systems when results are delayed. Those who stay steady automatically rise, not because they are extraordinary, but because they remain when others disappear. Thinking in decades removes emotional volatility. A bad month stops feeling catastrophic. A slow year does not trigger panic. You understand that progress is uneven, but direction matters more than pace. Calm replaces anxiety. Confidence replaces urgency. Time leverage is subtle power. When you give investments, habits, and systems enough time, they begin working harder than you do. Compounding accelerates quietly. The early years feel slow. The later years feel inevitable. Calm beats speed. Calm allows clarity. Clarity protects discipline. Discipline compounds over time. This is the loop most people never enter because they are too busy chasing immediate proof. This chapter anchors you here, in patience, in certainty, in the understanding that wealth is built by those who respect time. When you stop racing the clock starts working for you. Chapter 10. Emotional control is financial control. Money problems rarely begin with numbers. They begin with emotion, stress after a long day, frustration when progress feels slow, ego when comparison whispers that you should be further ahead. These feelings do not announce themselves as danger. They arrive as justification. And when emotion leads, money follows in the wrong direction. Most financial mistakes are emotional reactions wearing logical disguises. You tell yourself it makes sense. You deserve it. You need it. You will fix it later. Emotion is persuasive because it feels urgent. It demands relief now, not results later. Mood-driven decisions are volatile. A good day creates overconfidence. A bad day invites escape. Stress looks for release. Ego looks for proof. Money becomes the fastest tool to regulate how you feel, even when it damages what you are building. Disciplined neutrality is different. It does not mean emotional suppression. It means emotional separation. You feel stress without obeying it. You notice ego without feeding it. You let moods pass without letting them vote on decisions that shape your future. Neutrality creates space. Space slows reaction. Reaction creates regret. When you pause, emotion loses momentum. Clarity enters, and clarity protects capital. People with emotional control do not feel less. They act less on feeling. They understand that emotions are temporary, but consequences are permanent. They refuse to let a passing mood rewrite long-term plans. This is where stability begins. Emotional regulation compounds quietly. Fewer impulsive purchases, fewer reactive decisions, fewer self-inflicted setbacks. Over time, this restraint builds trust in yourself. You become predictable to your own standards. Calm authority replaces volatility. You no longer swing between extremes. You are not overly optimistic or deeply discouraged. You remain steady. Steadiness builds confidence. Confidence reinforces discipline. Ego is the most expensive emotion. It pushes you to prove instead of prepare, to show instead of secure. Ego wants recognition now. Discipline wants freedom later. When ego is in charge, money leaks through display and comparison. Mastery of money always follows mastery of emotion. You cannot control outcomes you react to emotionally. You cannot build stability while chasing validation. Emotional control is not weakness, it is command. This chapter marks the shift from reacting to responding, from volatility to authority, from emotion-led decisions to principle-led behavior. When you master emotion, money becomes easier to manage because it is no longer used as emotional medicine. The next chapter builds on this truth, because once emotion is regulated, wealth stops feeling fragile and control becomes normal. Chapter 11. Wealth built in private lasts in public. Most people try to look wealthy before they are stable. They want proof, witnesses, confirmation that their effort means something. So they display progress early, loudly, and often. And in doing so, they expose what is still fragile. Visibility feels powerful, but it is expensive. When money is used to signal success, it stops being used to secure it. Flashy earners live under pressure to maintain appearances. Every upgrade becomes a new baseline. Every display creates a future obligation. Wealth that needs to be seen must be constantly defended. Quiet builders move differently. They do not announce plans. They do not document progress. They do not invite opinion into unfinished work. They understand that what is visible becomes vulnerable. Attention attracts judgment, temptation, and expectation. Privacy protects focus. Durability is built in silence. When no one is watching, discipline sharpens. Decisions become cleaner. There is no need to impress, only to execute. Quiet builders optimize for longevity, not applause. They care less about how success looks and more about how long it lasts. Flashy income often peaks early. It relies on momentum, hype, or performance. When conditions change, so does the image. Quiet wealth grows slower, but it roots deeper. It is supported by systems, restraint, and patience. It does not collapse when attention fades because attention was never the fuel. Privacy removes pressure. When progress is private, mistakes are cheaper, adjustments are easier. You can change direction without explanation. You can slow down without embarrassment. You can compound without distraction. Public validation creates emotional noise. Praise inflates ego. Criticism creates doubt. Both interfere with discipline. Quiet builders avoid this by staying invisible until results are undeniable. They let outcomes speak instead of defending intentions. This is not about hiding out of fear. It is about choosing protection over performance. Privacy is strategic. It keeps emotion out of execution. It allows wealth to mature without interference. True wealth does not require witnesses. It does not need approval to feel real. It shows up as options, not applause, as calm, not comparison, as control, not consumption. When wealth is built in private, it survives in public, because by the time it is visible, it no longer needs defending. Chapter 12. When discipline becomes identity. There comes a moment when discipline stops feeling like effort. It no longer feels like resistance or sacrifice or something you force yourself to do. It becomes automatic, natural, quiet. This is the moment everything changes. Before this stage, discipline feels heavy. You rely on reminders, motivation, and rules you argue with. Some days you follow them. Some days you don't. Progress feels fragile because it depends on how you feel. This is discipline as a habit you are trying to install. But identity-level discipline is different. It does not ask how you feel. It does not negotiate. It does not require hype. It operates the same way your values operate. You do not debate them. You live them. Forced habits require energy. Embodied standards conserve it. When discipline becomes identity, decision-making simplifies. You already know what you do and what you don't do. There is no internal conflict, no bargaining, no guilt afterward, just execution. This is the shift from struggle to flow. At this level, you stop tracking discipline consciously because it is already integrated. You do not feel proud of restraint. You expect it. You do not feel deprived by structure. You feel protected by it. Discipline is no longer something you practice. It is something you are. This identity is built slowly, through repetition, through pressure, through moments where you could have broken standards and chose not to. Each decision reinforced the same message to yourself. This is who I am. And identity compounds faster than habits ever could. When discipline is forced, setbacks feel personal. When discipline is identity, setbacks become information. You adjust without drama. You continue without shame. Emotion no longer disrupts direction because direction is anchored. This is where confidence deepens. Not loud confidence, not performative confidence. Quiet certainty. the kind that does not seek reassurance because it has evidence. Evidence in behavior repeated over time. You stop chasing motivation because you no longer need it. Motivation comes and goes. Identity stays. When you see yourself as disciplined, actions follow automatically. The gap between intention and execution disappears. This is also where money behavior stabilizes permanently. You do not need reminders to save. You do not feel tempted by comparison. You do not require external pressure to stay consistent. Your standards operate in the background, quietly protecting your future. Flow replaces friction. Life feels calmer. Decisions feel lighter. You are no longer fighting yourself. And when internal conflict ends, energy becomes available for growth. At this stage, wealth is no longer chased. It is attracted, not magically, but mathematically. Disciplined identity creates predictable behavior. Predictable behavior creates predictable outcomes. Money responds to stability. Opportunity responds to reliability. People around you may not notice the shift immediately. That is fine. Identity level change is subtle from the outside, but internally, everything feels different. You trust yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation for everything that follows. This is the turning point. The moment discipline stops being something you do and becomes someone you are. And once identity locks in, the rest unfolds naturally. Chapter 13, Redefining Rich. For most of your life, you were taught the wrong definition of rich. You were shown images, cars, houses, vacations, symbols designed to be seen. And without realizing it, wealth became something external, something loud, something proved through consumption. But consumption is not wealth. It is evidence of spending, not strength. True wealth is quieter than you were told. It does not announce itself. It does not rush to display. It does not need validation. Real wealth is measured in control, not purchases, in calm, not applause. Financial display looks impressive, but it is fragile. It requires income to keep flowing, attention to stay alive, energy to maintain. The moment cash slows down, the image cracks. Display demands constant feeding. Financial freedom is different. It asks nothing from the outside world. It does not care who notices. It shows up as options, as time, as the ability to say no without fear. That is a level of power consumption can never buy. Rich is waking up without panic. Rich is not checking your balance with dread. Rich is knowing your systems are working even when you are not thinking about them. Rich is sleeping well because tomorrow is not threatening you. Time is the real currency. Money only matters because it buys time. Time to think, time to rest, time to choose. When wealth is defined by display, time disappears. You are always working to maintain an image. When wealth is defined by freedom, time expands. Peace is another misunderstood asset. Most people trade peace for progress, not realizing peace is what allows progress to last. A calm mind makes better decisions. A regulated nervous system protects discipline. Peace is not laziness. It is clarity without noise. Optionality is the highest form of wealth. The ability to pivot, to wait, to walk away, to choose alignment over urgency. When you have options, you are no longer controlled by fear. You move deliberately, strategically. This redefinition changes how you behave. You stop buying to feel ahead. You stop upgrading to feel secure. You stop measuring yourself against timelines that are not yours. You measure wealth by how little pressure you feel, not how much you spend. Reflection is necessary here. You must release the version of success you were sold. Not because it was evil, but because it was incomplete. It showed you the surface and hid the cost. You are not abandoning ambition. You are refining it. You are choosing durability over drama, stability over spectacle, control over comparison. As this audiobook closes, integration begins. All the discipline, patience, systems, and identity shifts come together here. Wealth is no longer something you chase outwardly. It is something you protect inwardly. You are redefining rich as a life that feels solid, predictable, calm, powerful in its restraint. A life where money serves you, not the other way around. This is not the end. It is alignment. And when alignment is achieved, everything that follows feels intentional. Closing chapter: the discipline that outlives you. Discipline was never meant to be a phase. It was never meant to depend on motivation, inspiration, or perfect conditions. Those things come and go. Discipline stays. And when it stays long enough, it becomes something greater than a habit. It becomes legacy. Most people treat discipline like a tool they pick up when life feels out of control, then abandon when things improve. They use it temporarily, emotionally, inconsistently. That is why their results never last. What is practiced only in urgency disappears in comfort. But you have learned something different. Money discipline is not a reaction to fear. It is a permanent standard, a way of operating that does not change when circumstances do. It is calm in success and steady in struggle. It does not panic when numbers fluctuate. It does not relax when progress shows. It holds the line quietly, day after day. Motivation burns hot and fast. It excites you, then leaves you. Standards do not leave. Standards do not ask how you feel. They do not wait for clarity. They act because acting is who you are now. This is the difference between people who relapse and people who remain stable. Stability is not luck. It is not personality. It is the result of discipline that outlived emotion. You are no longer building wealth for excitement. You are building it for endurance, for peace that does not crack under pressure, for options that do not disappear when the world changes, for a life that feels grounded regardless of noise. Discipline outlives trends, outlives economic cycles, outlives comparison. It survives boredom. It survives success. It survives stress. And because it survives, it compounds. What you do repeatedly becomes what you leave behind. Not just money, but standards, patterns, proof that a controlled life is possible in a distracted world, that patience still works, that silence still wins. This is not about becoming obsessed with money. It is about becoming indifferent to chaos. When discipline governs your behavior, money stops controlling your emotions. Fear loses leverage. Urgency loses authority. You move deliberately, not desperately. You have crossed a line. On the other side of this audiobook, you do not return to reacting. You do not return to drifting. You do not return to noise. The old patterns no longer fit because your standards are higher now. You are no longer practicing discipline. You are living it. You understand that wealth is built quietly, protected fiercely, and sustained patiently. You understand that control feels better than consumption, and peace lasts longer than pleasure. You understand that discipline is not limitation. It is freedom earned slowly. This is your final integration. You are the kind of person who follows through when no one is watching, who waits when others rush, who holds standards when others negotiate, who builds something that does not collapse when attention fades. You are no longer reactive. You are deliberate. And that identity, once formed, outlives everything else.